Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, I have a fantastic, awesome LinkedIn expert for us today. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to have him on now. Jason Osborn, he is a leading expert in LinkedIn, showing businesses around the globe how to generate high quality leads without being spammy or paying for ads. Originally from Texas, Jason now lives in Ireland in England, right? So it's not very far from me, guys. 16 years ago in Ireland, he trained to be a life coach and started marketing himself online. But he had no idea how to market himself online, but loved learning how to do it. And guess what, guys? Within 18 months, Jason had built an email list of over 9,000 people and was coaching people around the world in 13 different countries. More and more people were asking Jason, how is he doing this? And they were asking him the secrets and to share what he does and how he markets himself online. As a result of that, 12 years ago, Jason transitioned his business to helping other businesses with marketing online. He now focuses in on working with businesses, showing them how to tap into the power of LinkedIn to generate leads in an authentic manner. Please welcome to the stage, Jason Osborn. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to have you here.
Hey, Kay, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be on the show and just give as much value as I possibly can.
Yeah, oh my goodness. So I spoke to you a while ago off camera, and the amount of information that you shared, and you also sent me some resources, they were amazing. Like, I learned so much in such a short amount of time, and I knew I had to have you on the show. And so before we get into the whole nitty-gritty of LinkedIn, I would love for you to share with our audience today, a little bit about your background. What were you doing before you even fell into business and around LinkedIn? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I've always been very intrigued in business. As you said, I'm originally from Texas, and I ended up running my first business when I was 20 years old. I was selling window coverings, so like blinds and things like that, blinds and shutters, and was going basically door to door. It doesn't sound as horrible as it sounds, but it was like new build homes. They didn't have window coverings, so they really, not only did they want it, like they needed it. They needed it really bad. And so it was great, 20 years old doing all this stuff. I learned so much around that and started up a couple little other smaller businesses and things. And then I ended up moving to Ireland. I actually live in the UK now. I moved to the UK about 12 years ago now. So I live up near Leeds in the north of England. But you are right. I originally moved to Ireland near Galway. And I was really... I got a job because it was a new country, new place, all that. So I was like, okay, let me kind of understand what's going on in this country. I mean, I've been there loads of times visiting, but not living there. It's different living in a country than visiting. And so I got there, got a job, and just kind of having my feelers out there of what's going on, what's the culture, what kind of business. And I looked at a lot of normal kind of brick and mortar type businesses and stuff like that. But this was almost 17 years ago. And I was really, really, really intrigued with the whole online marketing world. I've been checking it out for a couple of years, actually, but it was kind of in its infancy stage. Like, it was just such a young industry, So I was trying to figure out what to do, whatever. So I've always been really big on impact and helping people and making a difference in the world. And even now, my trading name is Impact for Leads. So I'm really big on impact because that's what I love. So I thought, well, what if I train up as a life coach and start marketing myself online? And that's what I did. Didn't have a clue what I was doing at all. I loved the idea of helping people around the world, but didn't know how to reach them. I ended up hiring 3 different mentors in that span of that first 18 months, just in different areas to learn a lot of stuff and understand kind of how to market myself and what to do and all that sort of stuff. And, had ups and downs. I had some great wins, I had some great losses, had failures, all that kind of stuff. Because I always tell clients, you've got to test. So a lot of times when people jump into marketing or starting their own business,
Mm.
they I don't know why, but they almost just expect to succeed the first time out that they do stuff. And it doesn't mean that their overall business is going to fail, but what they expect to achieve kind of out the gate in their business oftentimes isn't the case. And that's not a bad thing. I was just speaking with one of my mentoring clients last week, and I was telling them, you need to fail as often and as fast as you can. Like the faster you fail, the faster you learn, and the faster you're going to be able to make those improvements so that you can see more and more successes. And it doesn't mean you don't have any successes along the way. It just means that if you spread out those failures, you try to delay them, which is what most of us try to do because we're afraid to fail, right? We're taught in school, I mean, you fail, that's a bad thing. Like it's ingrained in us. Like you can't fail, you can't fail, you can't fail, you can't fail. And so when we get into the real world, real life, then we think, oh, we can't fail. And so when we try to do something, we're like, oh, we delayed actually implementing what we want to do in case we fail. The problem with that is the sooner we fail, right, the sooner we can actually make those small little incremental changes and tweaks and adjustments so that we can have more and more successes. So anyway, that's a whole sidetrack there I went on, but I started up my business there as a life coach, and I started getting a lot of people asking me like, what are you doing and how are you doing this? And so my mentor at the time said, hey Jason, you should transition what you're doing into helping other businesses and showing them what to do online. And so that's what I did. I did that in one form or another, and then about 4 years ago I got really stuck into LinkedIn, which I know we'll dive a lot more into later. But yeah, that's kind of a snapshot of my journey and kind of where I've come from and up to where I am now.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And the fact that you kind of transitioned in every way possible, right? Changing countries, changing careers, figuring it all out, but it didn't stop you. And so I've got a question there for you. What was the motivation to keep going, even though you had all these different failures and trying things out? What kept you moving forward?
Yeah, good question. I think I've always had a big drive in me. It's just kind of there, always has been. I've always been quite competitive. But I think the big thing for me is it always goes back to that impact piece. Like I know that if I'm not helping people, I don't feel like I'm actually living up to, I don't feel congruent within myself. Right. And so if I'm not having that impact, then I just feel like I've had jobs before where it's just a job. And I feel hollow inside. I just feel so empty because
Right.
it's to me, I don't feel the impact I'm having on people. And so that's a big thing on why I drive and do what I do. And of course, with what I do now, like, I coach and mentor. And even though I coach a lot of business owners and companies around LinkedIn, the amount of psychology that comes into marketing, and particularly solopreneurs that I work with, a lot of I'll say life coaching. The amount of stuff we actually have to work on up here in our brains and our heads and the way we approach stuff and look at things. That's the biggest thing that I see a lot of us really have to work through, because the reality is it's easy to push the buttons. I always tell people, look, I can show you the buttons to push. That's easy to do. It's those little things that when you actually start moving forward and you go, ooh, okay, I've got to do this. Or I call it leveling up. It's playing a game, and you're leveling up, and each level you have to learn something new, and you have to understand how to pass that level. And whenever we hit those points, we go, oh, okay, I didn't realize I was going to have to face this challenge, or I was going to have to learn this thing. And if we're not willing to approach those things and go, okay, cool, this is just my learning in this level so I can level up, that's where most people stop. So that really drives me, is being able to have those conversations with clients and to and not I love teaching, but also to just challenge them as well. Like, come on, you can do this, do this, right? What's stopping you from doing what we spoke about last time on our call? Well, this and this. Okay, well, do it this week, and and all that sort of stuff. That I get a kick out of it. I
Yeah,
just love
I
doing
can
it.
hear the passion in your voice as you're telling me and explaining. That's awesome. Now, oh my goodness. So your journey has had a lot of ups and downs, but at the end of the day, you've come out on top because you've learned so much, and now you're helping clients do the same thing and help them gain results, which is awesome. Now, coming to LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn, right? I don't know it in and out like you do, but I absolutely love LinkedIn. Now, when you're working with business owners around this platform, what are some of, I guess, the common mistakes people are making again and again?
Yeah. Loads. So I'll try to narrow them down to kind of top one or two.
Uh-oh.
So one of the big things that I see people doing a lot on LinkedIn is my brain's going, oh, which one do I choose? Which one do I choose? So I guess one of the biggest ones is this: people try to use LinkedIn like they do Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a big mistake I see people making. And I'll explain why, because people go, okay, well, why? So if we look at, I was just talking about psychology, marketing psychology earlier. We have to understand the psychology of the users when they use different platforms, right? And this comes down to our avatar, like our target market, all that kind of stuff, the psychology that they're in when they're using different platforms. So when people like me and you, just as normal human beings in our day-to-day life, when we're on Facebook and Instagram, we usually just scroll aimlessly through content or have a little nosy in people's lives. What are they doing? It's kind of like we're not there really to do anything on purpose, right? Other than to just have a browse, have a nosy, see what's going on, scroll through stuff, and we go through these rabbit holes of stuff. We'll end up on Facebook, and next thing we know, 15 minutes later, we're on our 15th video on YouTube, and then leads us to TikTok, and then back to Instagram, then we're back. It's just this rabbit hole of stuff, right? So the intent of people when they go on Facebook and Instagram is usually very social in nature. It's, chat, nosy, look what people are doing, snooping on people, all that kind of stuff. LinkedIn's very, very different. People do not go on LinkedIn for that, right? I mean, the amount of people I speak to on LinkedIn, like when's the last time people have gone onto LinkedIn and go, oh, let me just have a nosy into what people are doing in their lives and scroll through their feed? They don't. It's just not what people do. Right. And so because of that, people aren't just going scroll, scroll, scroll like they are on Facebook and Instagram. On LinkedIn, they're not doing that sort of stuff. When people go onto LinkedIn, if you imagine they put on their professional hat, right? They go on in their professional role, whether they're a business owner, whether it's the role in the company that they're employed at, but they go on the Instagram looking for either a solution to a problem. So they're looking for an answer of some sort, or they're looking to network in some way. And so when they go on to do that, there's more intent when people come onto LinkedIn. Right. And so one of the other challenges that I see a lot of people having is they'll come to me and say, Jason, I'm active on LinkedIn. And I always know this conversation. Like I know exactly how it's going to play out. But I say, okay, well, what are you doing? And inevitably it's I'm posting on LinkedIn. And I've learned not to make an assumption around this, because I just assume they're not making leads, although they're not. But I always like to ask the question. So are you actually generating leads from that? And they're like, no. I'm like, yeah. Well, just posting on LinkedIn in and of itself, it's not what people go on for anyway. They're not there to just look through content. So those are some of the I've kind of combined a couple things. So posting aimlessly on LinkedIn, trying to put content in there, thinking that that's what you need to do because that's what people do on Facebook and Instagram. And then understanding the psychology of people when they actually go onto LinkedIn, because when you understand that, you have to be, because they're there with intent, you have to be on the platform with proactive intent. In other words, you have to be reaching out to your target market, but not in a spammy way. So those are some of the biggest mistakes that I see on LinkedIn.
Okay, I like that. So see, I think when you mention not using LinkedIn like Facebook or Instagram, right? I guess because that's what they do on those platforms, you think all the social media platforms are exactly the same, right? When you actually think about it and you explain that it's not, it's for professional, people that are on LinkedIn and a different clientele altogether, that you have to actually react in a different way. So that's awesome. Now, you have mentioned, though, that, you can get leads from LinkedIn without being spammy, without being salesy, without doing ads. So how does someone do that then?
Yeah. So there's a whole methodology I've created along with that on that strategy of how to do it. But the key thing is this: always keep in mind that you have to make sure that what you're doing on LinkedIn is always geared towards your prospect, that you're adding value towards that, and that you're not trying to pitch and sell. So a couple of the other mistakes that I see people make is that their profile is all about themselves. Right. Which, like, historically, I get it. We all think of LinkedIn generally as a place where you put like your online business card, your CV, resume, something like that, because we think, oh, this is the place if you're, looking to impress potential employers, then you have to have a resume type of CV style profile. The problem though is when you're wanting to generate leads don't care about you. They don't care about how long you've been in the industry and which awards you've won and all, I've done this. I mean, I see people write their profile in third person, or they'll be like, I did this and I did that and I've done this and I. Prospects don't care. Prospects don't care about me, right? We like to think that people care about us, but really the reality when we're talking about business is people just want to know, can we help them? If we can help them, then they'll be more engaged with what we can actually do. And so we have to kind of get over that whole kind of either a misunderstanding or there's an element of pride or ego in there. And because like I see people's headline, like CEO of XYZ company, your prospect doesn't care you're a CEO. And even if you are a CEO, what benefit does that give to your prospects? Like nothing. Like your title means nothing. The only person that your title is important to is you. That's it. No, your prospect doesn't care. So you have to make sure that your profile is all about your prospect, but it's not geared in a way where you're pitching and selling and, hey, I do this and I do this and we can help you. I see a lot of people trying almost like writing a sales page, and prospects don't get that. They're being spoken at, right? When you're doing that. So you want to draw them in with that. And you always want to, I always tell clients this as well. Wanting to generate leads on LinkedIn, think of LinkedIn like a virtual in-person networking event. Okay. So if we go, you or anyone listening to this, you may have heard of BNI. It's a worldwide networking place. There's loads of places. I know here in the UK, we have for networking, and there's loads of networking things all over the world, right? You go, it's a group of people and you network and all that kind of stuff. Well, if I walked into a networking meeting and I just walked up to someone and shoved my business card in their hand, they'd be like, who is this? It's just instantaneously it puts people on the back foot. They're like, that's what most people are doing on LinkedIn, right? They're sending connection requests. Person doesn't know them at all, and they're trying to pitch them in the connection request as well. Hey, this is what we do. Are you interested? Or hey, this is what we do. Would you like to jump on a 15 or 30-minute call? It's like, no, like who are you? I don't even know who you are. So it's about creating that engagement, just like you would in person, where it's, hi, how are you? What's your name? Now, you don't say it that way on LinkedIn, but it's about building that rapport so that when people go, oh, cool, it's nice to meet you. And then you have that opportunity then to go, by the way, this is what I do. And what do you do? And, you start looking at where there's potential opportunities for how you guys can help each other.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things around that proactive piece is it being proactive in terms of adding value and not just being that, that kind of slimy salesperson that we see so much on LinkedIn.
So LinkedIn has so many different features, right? I mean, you've got like the premium, you've got the sales navigator, there's several packages within LinkedIn, right? Now you can sign up for LinkedIn completely free, but as a business owner, should be looking at all these other different features to gain higher quality leads, or do we just stick with a free platform and just work on that? How does that work?
Yeah, I always recommend people use Sales Navigator. So Premium and Sales Navigator, LinkedIn's not very good at distinguishing the differences between the two, but Premium basically doesn't do anything, right?
Oh.
It gives you some in-mail credits. That's about it, right? But Sales Navigator actually gives you the search feature where you can actually use Sales Navigator. Sales Navigator is awesome. It's so good, right? The reason why a lot of people don't understand the how amazing Sales Navigator is because they're just using it wrong. And I always tell clients, imagine if I gave you a saw and I said, this is amazing. This will change your life because it cuts wood so easy. But you start using the flat end of the blade to try to cut wood, you'd be like, dude, you just lied to me. Like this is harder, right? Like you're trying to chop it with the flat end of the blade or whatever. And I'm like, oh no, you're using it wrong. It's the same thing with Sales Navigator. It's a tool. That's all it is. But most people are using it wrong. And so they go, oh, I tried it. It didn't work, all that sort of stuff. So the thing about Sales Navigator is this, because like I've tested all of this because I wanted to know the same thing. Is there really a big benefit in me using Sales Navigator? Can I just do everything for just normal LinkedIn?
Yeah.
So I did a search on LinkedIn and I used the exact same filters within Sales Navigator, and the quality and the amount of results that I got back was way better on Sales Navigator. But not just that, there's a lot of extra additional search filters on Sales Navigator that allows you to target in on your target market even better. It is the best business to business and business to professional search tool in the world. It's phenomenal. So it's really good on how it works. It's just some amazing filters in there that, again, allow you to really target in on who your target market is, so that then you can start reaching out to them. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's not actually that much, I know everyone in their business might be a little bit different places, but I think it's like $69 here, or pounds rather, in the UK. And I think it's like $97 in the US. It's different in every country, but it's well worth it when you're actually using it properly and know how to define your ideal target market, and then using it in a way to actually reach out to people in a non-salesy way and build that rapport and all that sort of stuff. So,
see, this is the reason why we need to hire you to show us exactly how to use this and be able to take advantage of the benefits that LinkedIn gives us, because we don't all know how to use it, right? We don't know the features, we don't understand it, and we're just trying to figure things out, I guess, using like Google and YouTube videos and see if we can work it out ourselves. But working with you will make it faster for us, and you'll also be able to kind of support us in making sure that we're getting the results, working it right. And also, I know that LinkedIn has so many different updates coming up here and there, and you are the person that makes sure that keeps up to date with everything, so you can pass that knowledge on to your clients. So that is awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So now, Jason, I know though LinkedIn isn't the only marketing strategy that you're using, right? Because of course you're here, you're using podcasts too. So I would love for you to explain to our audience, as a business owner, yourself being one, why did you choose to also use podcasting and guesting on shows to market and build your business? And what kind of results has that brought you?
Yeah. So the way I like to think about it is you have to have a multi-pronged approach to how you're marketing out. And using one platform is good. And I do always tell people, like, get really good at one platform. Don't try to figure them all out, because you'll just pull your hair out, right? Trying to figure it all out, because there's just too many platforms. You want to get really good on one platform, but using things like podcasts allow you to create additional content and authority in your marketplace. So if you are using any platform at all, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, when you're using podcasts, what it does is it gives you additional content that you're able to put out there, so that when people are checking you out, or you're connecting with people, or whatever you're doing on LinkedIn, then they're able to also see that you've been on podcasts, and they can hear you, they can see you, they can get a feel for who you are, and they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I actually like this person. They kind of know what they're talking about. And so that the credibility piece is really, really big on that. The other good thing around podcasts is leverage. Being able to leverage other people's networks as well. So if you are guesting on people's podcasts, well, they've got a network as well, right? So they've got a network of people that listen to what they have to say, and they're promoting out And so oftentimes from business owners, they're like, well, how do I leverage? How do I leverage? How do I leverage? Well, one of the biggest ways to leverage is to leverage other people's networks. And I mean, we've talked about this for hours, right? But leveraging other people's networks is really, really big. And so by podcasting, when you're a guest on a podcast, you get to leverage other people's networks. And so you spend half an hour, however long the podcast is, spend that amount of time for yourself. And then the person who runs a podcast, they're the one editing it. They're the one that's promoting it out. They're the one that's doing everything. And it's also there forever as well. So the more that they grow their audience, well, their audience is going to look at past episodes and they're going to look at different things. Or if they're on with another guest, or if they're doing just a podcast themselves, I mean, they're just talking about a topic, they might go, let's say they've got another guest on the show and they're talking about, I don't know, Facebook or whatever. And that guest mentions something around like, oh yeah, LinkedIn's really well, but I'm not the expert. You might go, oh yeah, and by the way, guys, if you want to know something about LinkedIn, check out episode whatever with someone. So they can always refer back. So there's just, you're leveraging that network. So I have, as a matter of fact, I had someone reach out to me last week and just go, hey, Jason, I heard you on so-and-so's podcast and loved what you said and loved to connect. So it's that third party credibility where you're not going, hey, this is me, this is how great I am, and this is what I do. Someone else is interviewing you and people go, oh, okay, I'm going to pay attention because someone else is saying how good that person is. So I probably gave like 3 or 4 reasons why podcast is really good, but that's why I think podcasts can be really, really beneficial for business owners.
Yeah, definitely. Now, there's so many people that I come across that saying that, oh my God, it takes too much time, too much energy. Don't want to do this. But the thing is, it's actually really inexpensive. It gets you in front of so many more people than if you was on a live stage, because you're only speaking to the room full of people. You've got a global audience. And like you mentioned, it's evergreen. Once it's out there forever, and people can listen to it in a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line because it's evergreen. Right. So thank you so much for explaining that and telling us why you're using podcasting as well. Now, before we come to an end and we wrap this up, do you have any last words to say regards to LinkedIn?
Yeah. So what I'd say is, if you are a business owner, business to business, business to professional, and even potentially business to consumer, business to consumer doesn't always work on LinkedIn. It just depends on how you position what you're doing. But if you are not using LinkedIn, why not? You've got to start using LinkedIn. Like I love this platform. I geek out over it. So if you are not using LinkedIn right now, start using the platform. Feel free. You can always, check my stuff out if you want to, but you've just got to do something to start getting onto the platform, because there's so much opportunity on the platform that people just don't understand. And you're literally missing out on business if you're not using the platform. So I'd say just get started if you aren't already. And if you are, then take it to the next level and just do more and more of what you're doing.
Awesome. Jason, it was amazing to have you on this show. So many golden nuggets, such a short amount of time. Thank you so much for coming to the show and educating all of us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Absolutely, Kay. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.